Craig Backshall is the founder of Neko Nation, which started in 2011 in Perth and has grown to be a national organisation. So, Craig, can you tell us how you had the idea for Neko Nation?
Yeah, so with Neko, I originally, when I was in Perth, I was studying at uni at the time. I had my break from uni. I was on my uni holidays. I'm like, okay, I want to do something. I've got all this free time. So I'd been doing like sort of stuff in the event. I've been doing stuff at events. So I've done stuff like I've been working as a bartender. I've worked bar managing. I've worked on door. I worked DJ. I've done like all sorts of different roles within like the event sort of scene, but I've never actually ran my own event. So I thought, okay, I'll give this sort of a try. It's like kind of a uni project to do in my spare time. And I thought like, okay, if I did this, what sort of event would I run? And I had the idea of doing something kind of anime based because it hadn't been done before. So I was like, or at least in Australia. So I looked around, I realized this was a concept that was done in other parts of the world, in particular Japan, to an extent America. I think there are a few things happening in Europe. So I thought, okay, I'll give this a go. I don't know if there's much interest or whether this thing will work in Perth, but it's like, I'll do it. It probably won't work. And I'll go back and it's like, we can laugh at how bad it failed and I can go back to uni and pretend it never happened. So we did the first show. It did a lot better than I thought. We got about 100 people, which is very small for these days, but back then, for our start and for Perth, like it was a pretty good turnout. I was more or less met my expectations. And very shortly after that event, we had people who were saying in other cities, like, "Oh, that's really cool. What are you doing? Are you going to come over there?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And it's like we already had like all this interest. Like, you should come over, do the thing, and and started growing from there, pretty much.
Sure. So, can you tell us a little bit about what it was like that first year when you started going national?
Yeah, so I think the first thing was it was a little bit scary because I was learning a lot just about doing events in my home sort of city and hometown. And that very first one was on the easier end because like I live back then I lived in Perth. I know friends here, I know people here. So this is a lot easier. I'm in my home. I've got hometown advantage. Moving to the other cities was a lot harder. So I think the first one I did was Adelaide. Adelaide thankfully wasn't too hard because Adelaide was even smaller and they were craved a lot more. They don't get many events, so that went actually way better than we could have ever imagined. It was like one of our hottest cities when we first started. Then not too long after that, so we mostly focused around Perth and LA, two cities that were on the smaller end. They didn't really get much attention, much events. So if you're starting out with your first events, these are kind of the easiest ways to kind of, stand out compared to a much competitive event scene over East. So we went over East, and over East we found that we did okay. We didn't do as well as the other cities, mainly because, so much is going on. You have so many more cons, you have so many like club events, but we managed to make a name for ourselves, and overall it just took a little bit longer to kind of get up and running in those cities, but yeah, we got there in the end, and very proud that we're growing to where we have from there.
Absolutely. So do you have any sort of standout stories that you would like to share from all of these years?
Don't know about stories, but at least like highlights. I think the first big one we did was like doing our first anime con, because I think that was on my end like, okay, the dream would be, I kind of more or less when I first started this envisioning it, this was kind of being an unofficial after party for cons. So when we got told like, oh, you can do this officially for us, like that was kind of like the kind of big massive dream, because we've got like thousands of people at these cons. So I was like, oh wow, this is actually going to be really, really fun, really exciting. So those events were really, really good, really, really fun. But on the other end, we did, I think the first big international tour was kind of interesting, because that didn't go as crash hot as I would have liked, because organizing something like five shows and 5 nights in a row, that was very hard. It was very tiring. It was very tiring to even organize. But just doing that was an experience I don't really want to go too much again, because usually what happens is that we'll finish the show, we'll spend like all day like setting up, doing the event at night, packing down, and then getting a couple of hours sleep, and then hitting the airport and pretty much doing it all over again. And I think at the end, it was like maybe 1 or 2 hours to go, we got to the point where like someone found me like sleeping, like not on stage, but like the staircase onto the stage, because I was like that tired out and that worn out. And I got home from that tour, and my fiance said, like, you must be really tired. You can get some sleep if you need. And I'm like, okay, cool. And it was like she said, you slept for 40 hours. Because I was like that. I was that sleep deprived and like worked that hard on on the show. So yeah, those were some interesting times. Starting up a lot earlier. So yeah.
So has this kind of exhaustion played into the idea of you sort of winding down and wrapping up Neko Nation?
Yeah, so that's pretty much the main reason why I've decided to quit. So overall, like, I absolutely love Neko. I would love to continue doing it. But but realistically, this is something I do for fun. It's something I do on the side. So when I do it, it's like I have a 9 to 5 day job. I was studying at uni as well when I was in the early days as well when I was doing Neko. There was one part where I was like juggling two, like a full-time job and a part-time job and Neko. So just to pay the bills, because Neko is like something I do for fun. I don't really do it to make money. There's not really too much money in the small events. Not until you get up to like the big massive cons is there really any money. So I got to the point where I was just getting very, very tired, getting very burnt out. I've done something like 75. Next gig I'm doing is my 75th event, and just the amount of work that's involved is very, very tiring. Like I don't get my own weekends. I don't really get to attend many other events, and I just kind of miss. I've been running my own events. I've been like doing events for other people, and I was like, I want to attend other people's events. I want to appreciate what they've done, and I'm kind of sad that I've never gone to. And I think that's one of the things I'm looking forward to most now that's over.
Would you consider coming back to Neko Nation in the future if you had more support or maybe a corporate partner?
I think on my end, I don't really see myself ever going back to Neko, mainly because I think just a lot of the work, a lot of the effort involved, I think it's just going to be very, very tiring. I honestly say it the other way around. I would like to see, I think we're here at MadFest today. MadFest, for example, have like a lot of the idols. They have like a concert performance. They have a lot of events like that. So I think Smash are also doing it. We're seeing it at a lot of other cons. So I think something like that I would love to get involved with. I think pretty much me kind of assisting, me in a more smaller role rather than, hey, can you handle this part of the event, rather than, can you do an entire event? It's a little bit overwhelming, a little bit daunting for me, like where I'm at. So I see myself like in a bit more of an assisting sort of role, and kind of seeing, doing something very similar to what Neko is doing. But at the same time, it's more like, hey, can we, it doesn't necessarily have to be stuck in clubs. Like we're pretty much, let's do it at cons, and we're seeing this area grow, and, I'd like to continue on in that way.
Well, you have one final Neko Nation show coming up in Sydney. Is it a bittersweet experience for you?
Yeah, so I think that one's going to be very, 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 very sad, very, very emotional. Like I've done the final shows in other cities, and I know that it was very, very hard for me. Like I know Brisbane, I like broke down in tears. So I was crying on stage because I had like all my crew. Like they didn't tell me. They pretty much like all got up on stage and ask everyone to give me a round of applause and thank me and give me all these gifts. Like I had all these gifts from everyone on my team, which I was like, I don't know why I deserve all this, but everyone seemed really, really happy. So I'm gonna be very, very sad because it's been a huge part of my life. It's been something I've been doing for 8 years. Like I'm trying to think of something else I've been doing in my life for 8 years. That's like, as I sit here, about a quarter of my life, and it's going to be a bit scary moving on, but I'm also very excited for what the future may bring. And even though it's all over on my end in regards to Neko, I don't think it's going to be 100% gone. Like I honestly see other people doing other similar things. Like when I first started, this is unproven. Like no one had done anything like this. And whoever's tried something now, like has the advantage of knowing, hey, you can do something like this and it'll work in Australia. So yeah.